Welcome back to Right at the Wire. I'm Alex. I forgot I hadn't introduced myself to you before, so now you know who I am. Pegasus World Cup is this weekend, so we've got a lot of great betting opportunities. It's a deep card and a tough one. There's no clear-cut answer on most of the races, so you've got a lot of opportunities to find some overlays and get some great value. So we're going to take a look at the pick five of the final five races. And we'll get to that right now. Okay, let's take a look at the first leg of the pick five. That's the William L. McKnight. It's a grade 3. It's a mile and a half on the turf. So one thing that distinguishes it is that you're going to have 3 turns. It's a rather unique configuration that you don't see too often. So it does present some interesting possibilities. One of the things about these races is that horses on the lead seem to have an advantage, and particularly Gulfstream lately, early speed has been doing very well. So that's something to keep in mind. You also, there's a lot of horses that you see that you maybe don't see too often, maybe you aren't too familiar with, because there's not a lot of mile and a half races run. So this field is no exception. There's a couple in here I really hadn't seen before, but let's take a look at them. Number 1 is Time for Trouble. He is bred to run this distance all day long. He's got English Channel on top and Galileo on the bottom, so this is kind of in his wheelhouse. It's a really good angle for Jeff Hiles to have a 61 to 180 layoff, and I think this horse is on the upswing. Had a nice race. Granted, it was on dirt in the Iron Horse. And I think, he's demonstrated he can run on turf. And the distance, like I said, meets him between the eyes. And I think he'll be up near the pace. So late in the race, with Jaramillo as the jockey, who's really good with early pace horses, I think he's got a big chance. And you're going to get a great price. And really for this race, I think that's the key, is getting good value. So Time for Trouble is a use for me. Shoddy really hasn't shown a whole lot. I think this horse is just simply outclassed, and I don't intend to use. There's a couple of things to like. He's won at the distance, and I guess that's something, but the speed numbers look light to me, and again, I think he's outclassed, so that's a toss for me. Powwow Alto is a major league enigma in a race that kind of has a lot of them, but he's owned by Wertheimer and Frere, trained by Graham Motion, and he's got Dettori on him. But look at this horse's running lines. He just hasn't done much since he's come over, and really the alarm to me is the fact that he hasn't run at a mile and a half. And he's run at a mile and a quarter a couple of times in France, but his pedigree screams it, and yet he hasn't done it yet. So I wonder about that. For that reason, and the fact that he just hasn't done much, and I think you're going to get a short price on him because of his connections, he's a toss for me. However, is he eligible to rebound and win this? Yeah, I think he is. And I wouldn't discourage you if you want to try to give him a shot. Just for me, the price is going to be a little too short, so he's a toss for me. Aban is the reigning champion, trained by Todd Pletcher. So because he won the race last year, we know he can get the distance. He's a front runner. I think that's a good place to be for this race, and really Gulfstream turf in general of late. However, the last couple races have really been duds. He was screaming for a freshening in June, and they gave him one, but what happened? He came back out and really just didn't fire at all. And that has to be a big concern. For me, it is particularly. If you think that he can do it, I wouldn't, he definitely is eligible to win this race. I'm just concerned he's not going to rebound from really subpar form. And again, the price is going to be too short for me, and I think you absolutely have to have value in a race like this. So to me, he's going to be a toss, but again, if you want to use him, I wouldn't discourage you from doing so. Agatari is kind of a weird one. That last race was just about as bad a break as you can have. And he really didn't, it just killed him in that race. There was nothing left for him to do. You can see that he did win at 2 miles, and I don't think the distance is going to be a problem. You look at his form, he's running 1 3/4 miles, 1.5 miles. The interesting thing is he's running, one of the things I try to look at when I see these imports is what weight were they carrying when they ran in those races. Because to me, that usually means that the higher the weight, the more they take him seriously, and more he was a win candidate in a race. In this case, you look and the odds, if those odds are correct, it really didn't seem to matter too much. And as you can see, he really hasn't won since 2021, and he really didn't do much running at all last year. So for me, there is some value. I think he's going to be up near the pace, and that is the place you want to be. I think he can withstand the distance, but I'm just not willing to take a chance on him. To me, there's too many question marks, so he's a toss for me. Temple is another one. Mike Maker is the trainer you want for stretching out on turf, and I think there's definitely some positives to this horse. He definitely, I think he's got the class to compete. The thing for me is, whenever he's got a short price, he doesn't, he's a little disappointing. He seems to be better when you don't expect him to run. I don't know what that means, but it's a turnoff for me. The Red Smith, he didn't fire at all. And again, the price is just too short for me for a 7-year-old who's probably going to have to run just about his best race, and I'm not willing to back him. But again, if you think he's, you find that he's an eligible candidate, by all means use him. To me in this race, I just can't touch him. Channel Maker, the 9-year-old veteran. This one, I've never liked this horse. I got to be honest. He just never seems to do much or to factor. He always looks like he's lacking that extra gear to win. To me, he'll be on the front end. He could be the pace, and he could very well get on the lead and be gone. It's very possible. I'm not going to say it isn't, but you can see the Breeders' Cup Turf. He really didn't do much running in that race, nor did he do any in the Sycamore. I mean, he got a 4th, but he faltered, and I think Father Time might finally be catching up with this one a little bit. At 9 years old and at a short 3-1, there's just no way I'm going to take him in this race. But again, if you want to use him, by all means, I don't think it's I wouldn't discourage it. Just that's too short a price for me. The number 8 is Harlan Estate. I can't really see much to like about this horse, particularly since he's by Cantharos. That is all speed to me. And that's just a big turnoff. I just don't see much in the way of to like about this horse, so he's a toss for me. Number 9 is Value Engineering. Again, Mike Maker, he's the trainer you want. He's by Lemon Drop Kid. He's got Dynaform underneath. He can run all day. And his last race, was around 3 turns, by the way, and he did pretty well. He won. It was a halfway decent race, and he was wide a lot of the race, and so that's always a good sign when, despite the fact that he had to go wide all the way, he still had enough to win. So I think that he's in a good place. He was trained a long time by Chad Brown. I don't know what that means, or I don't think there's much of a difference between Chad Brown and Mike Maker, to be honest with you. And I think, again, these long races, this is Mike Maker's wheelhouse. So I like Value Engineering. I think you're going to get a price. If I can get anything around 8-1, I'm going to be very happy, because I think he's a serious win candidate. Reigning Spirit, kind of like the 8, and I just don't really see a whole lot here to like. Again, he seems a little outclassed, but if you want to try to give him a shot, by all means, go ahead. Brian Lynch is a good trainer, but I don't know. I just thought there was better value with some others, so he's a toss for me. Red Knight is an interesting one. Again, another 9-year-old, like Channel Maker, been around a long time. This is his specialty, a mile and a half. This is basically the distance that he wants to be at. And again, Mike Maker's the right trainer to have. Interesting to have Irad Ortiz on him. He's more of a early pace kind of jockey, but I think this one will be coming late. I'm not really, mainly, again, the issue for me is the price. From 9-2, I just think is a little short. This one, was a dud in the Breeders' Cup Turf. Don't really think he belonged there. And the Sycamore before that wasn't so hot either. So Father Time might be catching up with this one. But again, he is eligible. He could do this. And if you want to use him, I don't discourage you from doing so. The Wicked Fast is very intriguing to me. Number one, he's 4. So there's upside. And a lot of these, they're either on the downward slide or they're plateauing. This one could be moving forward. The last race, he had a really nice closing kick in the Jerkins. It was around 3 turns. And, he's run on turf. I think the distance is not a problem. And again, Mike Maker's the trainer. If anybody's going to get this horse over the top, he's the one to do it. And at the price you're likely to get with this one, I think he's definitely worth a shot, and I'm going to use. So I think Barberini is pretty much out, so we won't worry about him, and I probably would toss him in any event. So to recap, the 1, 9, and 12 are the ones I'm going to use. I think that this race demands that you find value, and that's where I'm finding it. Okay, the next leg in the pick 5 is race number 10, and that is the Grade 3 Fred Hooper Stakes. It is a 1-turn mile on the dirt, and 1-turn miles, this is a really interesting distance. I mean, you're basically going all out all the way through, so it really is important if you can show some stamina to hang on. I think that particularly in this race, that is going to be very important. The first candidate is Miles D. He is by Chad Brown, and he's definitely got some class. I mean, you can see at 3 years old, he ran in the 3rd in the Travers, which is pretty good, I'd say. His last race was in February of last year, though, so he's had a long layoff. And interesting enough, Chad Brown is 0 for 5 in graded stakes with a 180 plus layoff. He's also on the rail, so there's a chute, as you can see. If you look at the configuration, he's going to have to hustle. Otherwise, he may get shuffled back and have some traffic issues. So that's a little bit of a concern for me. I think he definitely has the ability to win this race. I like others a little bit more, and that long layoff does concern me. And again, I think you need value in this race, and at 3-1, I think is a little short, particularly with the long layoff. Though it's hard to knock those connections, though. Peter Brandt, Rosario, Chad Brown. If you want to use them, go ahead. I'm just looking for a little more value, so he's going to be a toss for me. Noble Drama is a deep closer. He's a specialist at a mile. As you can see, he's got 7 wins. I'm a little concerned about that last race, although it was 7 furlongs. But he ran against Statebreds at Tampa and couldn't get the job done. And that's got to be a worry. He has had a little bit of a freshening, and he's run at Gulfstream 26 times, so he definitely knows the track. I just wonder if maybe Father Time is catching up again with this one. He's 8 years old, and I think you're going to get a price. And if but Jaramillo is more of an early pace kind of jockey. So to have him close is I don't know. There's just, for me, he's a toss. I just have a feeling that he's not going to fire today. So we'll go to the number 3, Mish. Sappy Joseph, this is his home track. You know he wants to have a big day, and he's got the speed of the speed here. Of all the pace, and there's plenty of it in this race, I think he's the one who's more likely to be up on the lead. So then you got to wonder, can he hang on? He's got Zayas on him, who rode him in the last one. But as you'll see, there's another horse that he normally rides too, Picking Up Pennies, who I think is a better horse overall, and yet he sticks with Mish. So that gives you a wonder, because Sappy trains them both. So I wonder about that. He's a horse for the course. There's no doubt about that. 4 wins, a second and 2/3 in 7 tries. So again, he's one that you can use. 6-1 is a pretty good price for him. I have a feeling he's going to get bet down a little bit, and so I mean, going 2 turns before this race might be a pretty good tightener for him. So there's some things to like, I think, but for me, I want a little bit. I want others appeal a little bit more, so I'm going to toss him. Octane is one that he sort of fits. I think he can rate if he needs to, but I'm just not sure he's got the top end to hang with these. And for that reason, more than anything else, I'm going to toss him. He could be there. I mean, he could hang around, but to me, he just doesn't do it. Not even having Mike Smith is appealing to me, so I'm going to let him go. Black Belt is extremely intriguing. This horse is in just about as good a form as you could be in. The only thing is you got to wonder about is that he just ran his career best race, and he did it very impressively. There was some pace to run to, and he was able to hang in and draw off. I think he's in really good form. 6-1 is a great price for this one, I think. And Walder really seems to have done a great job with him. Interesting, if Mark Casse couldn't get run out of him and Walder can, you got to wonder. Maybe there's some questions there, but I think this one's in too good a form to leave off, and he's a definite use for me. Number 7 is Picking Up Pennies. He, again, another one who, excuse me, he's a horse for the course. He's 3 for 3 at the distance, and he's got 10 in the money finishes up 13 starts at Gulfstream, so you know he likes the track. His last race, he was very impressive, I thought, on the front end when the track favored closes, and he was still able to hang on. And it was again in a mile at the track at the distance. And here, interesting enough, Jose Ortiz gets the mount and not Edgar Zayas. So you got to kind of wonder about that a little bit. I don't know if that means that that Mish is a better candidate to win here, but I think overall Picking Up Pennies is a better horse, and I love 8-1 on him. He's a win candidate for me. I think if any horse is going to withstand the pace pressure and hang on, he could very well do it. So I'm going to use Picking Up Pennies. Doc Amster, I can't see anything to like about this one. Not even the price entices me. He just doesn't have the speed, and certainly a mile is not a distance that he's ever gone before, and he's suspect at 6 furlongs with this field too, so he's a toss for me. Endorsed is an enigma. We know this. He has one of those horses who you just keep waiting for him to run that big race, and he just doesn't seem to do it. However, I don't know what's happened over the last 2, but he's definitely in very good form, and he seems to be on the upswing. For that reason, and again, Mike Maker knows how to get the most out of horses. He's got Saez on him. I mean, I think all systems are go here. The mile has not been a great distance for him in the past, but he has won at Gulfstream, and I think at 5-1, I mean, I think that's a pretty good price for him. He's a use for me, and I think being on the upswing, he's a win candidate. Excuse me. The 10, the Reds, is pretty interesting. Now, if you think that the pace is going to melt down, this is a pretty good horse to be thinking about. You're going to get a price. He's by Safi, and he's had a freshening, and he looks to be in pretty, that he's got something in the tank for this one. He is 0 for 3 at the distance, but he seems to be getting better as he's getting older. You got to like the fact that the last race was a 2-turn effort, although it was in November, and he switches back to 1 turn here. The price is really what I like more than anything. And of the closers, he looks like to me the one who's most likely to fire. So at the price, I'm definitely going to use him. And I think he's got a good shot here. Dean Delivers is really what bothers me more than anything else. Is he has a tendency to finish second. He's got seconditis, in my opinion. The last race was pretty much, I think they tried to rate him a little bit, and it really didn't seem to work out. He was coming down the stretch, and he made a nice run, but it wasn't nearly enough. This one, I just have a feeling that he's a disappointment, and I'm not willing to take a shot with him. 10-1 is a pretty good number, but to me, usually what happens is, the classier the race, horses that tend to run second tend to do worse, and I think this might be that kind of scenario here. So I'm going to toss him, but there's a couple of things to like, but I just don't think he's worthy of this field. Prevalence is the enigma of enigmas. This horse I can't figure out. I don't know anybody who can. He has the ability to run a big race like the Commonwealth, and he also has the ability to not show up at all like he did in the Mr. Prospector. He's very difficult to figure out. At 15-1, he's a great price in this race, to be sure, and he is 3 for 5 at Gulfstream, and he's 2 for 3 at the distance, but you just don't know which horse is going to show up. And I'm just not willing to take a chance on a horse like this. Again, I could see using him, but I just don't, to me, I'm just not willing to roll the dice on him. 12-Volt Man is another closer, but, you look at the 3 so far. You've got the Reds, Noble Drama, and 12-Volt Man, and, I think the Reds is probably in the best form. 12-Volt Man, it has the ability to run a big race. There's no doubt about that. And last race, he closed strongly into it. I just got a feeling there's others who are going to do a little better. He's by Sappy, and he's got the Tory. It's really more I'm getting a better price with the Reds. So that's kind of governing my decision. I could see using them. I wouldn't say you're wrong if you want to take a look and use them, but for me, I'm going to pass just because, again, I want a price in this race. So, looking back up, we'll go back up to the top here, and you can see I like picking up pennies, and I like endorsed in this one. I definitely think Black Belt is a strong contender in this race, and I'm also going to use the Reds for the possible close at a price. Okay, the fourth leg is the 12th race at Gulfstream. It is the Grade 1 Pegasus World Cup turf. It's 1.1 miles for 4-year-olds and up. The first contender is Wit. Big red flag right away for me is Practical Joke. He does not tend to do well with horses who go past a mile, and I don't think this is an exception. I also don't like the fact that the buyers are a little light. It's the first time going against older horses, and if you can't win and out west in the Hollywood Derby against what usually are fairly subpar California turf horses, I think that's kind of a mark against. So I think this one's a little up against it, and probably going to get a short price because of Pletcher and Ortiz and Rapoli Stables. Those are winning connections usually. So this one I'm gonna toss. Good Governance, I think, was pointed for the Fort Lauderdale, not necessarily this race. Coming off the layoff, and Anami obviously did a nice job with this one, ran a pretty good race, but I just have a feeling that we can't expect him to do that again, and I'm going to toss. But you are going to get a price, and who knows? But for me, the other options are better, and so I did consider using, but in the end, I'm going to toss. Atone is your speed, going to be the front runner, pretty much guaranteed. That's what he does. He's very one-paced in doing so, but that may be enough because, the Gulfstream Park turf is favoring early speed. You get on the lead and you're gone. So this one has a very good chance at 12-1 in particular. I can't say no to those odds, and with Mike Maker in turf routes is a big plus. So Atone, I'm definitely going to use. I probably like Lady Spitespear more, but this one I think has a really good chance to wire this field at a good price. Hurricane Dream is a riddle to me. Can't figure this one out. They brought him over at 6, and from what was not the greatest record in Europe, hasn't won since 2021. Motion hasn't been doing real good with shippers, imports lately. It is Team Valor, it is Frankie Dettori, it is Graham Motion. If you get a price, could he be used? Sure, no doubt. But to me, there's too many questions, and I think there's more solid win candidates. So keeping the ticket size small, and with, I think, more certain win candidates, this is a toss for me. One more bid is kind of the same thing as Witt in some respects. Winning out west, doesn't really do it for me. And that last race was kind of an interesting one. I mean, Balnikov is kind of a paper tiger sometimes. It wasn't the greatest win. And plus the buyers are a little light. This is a big step up, and I'm not sure that this one is up for it. You will get a price, but for me, he's a toss. Lady Spitespear, I really like in this spot. She is coming off of a career best effort. She just looks to be in great form. Roger Atfield is really good at bringing them down from Canada and firing in these big races. And I think this one ran just such a monster race in the last one and has had time to freshen up. I think they're all systems a go. Going to be up near the lead, which is exactly where you want to be. And will be definitely vying late. And for that reason, I'm putting her on top. I think she's a definite win candidate. Speaking Scout, if you consider the other two I spoke about, One More Bid and Witt, this one is a little more intriguing because he's done some running in the East and with some success, not a lot, but he has had some. He's got some versatility, and there's a couple of things to like, but I don't know. At 8-1, he seems a reach for me. And the Twilight Derby and the Hollywood Derby are really not races that I consider to match up with this field. And plus, going against Older for the first time, that's a big knock against for me. There's some, there's some things to like, and it is Graham Motion, but I can't see it, so I'm tossing. Who's the Star is a hard knock and closer. Really, the only big knock on this one for me is the fact that he's a late runner. He tries hard every time. He's definitely got grit. He is up against it as a closer, though, because this is a front runner favoring track at Gulfstream. But I think he offers some really nice value. I'd love to see this horse underneath. I think that's very possible. Not sure that he's got enough to win, but the fact that he's such a hard trier, I think that he's worth a look. And I think underneath is the ceiling, but at 20-1 or better, I mean, I think he's definitely a value play, and wouldn't discourage you if you want to use him. I'm not going to use him basically because of ticket size and the early speed favoring. So there you have it with him, but not a bad contender. Decorated Invader. Again, Christophe Clement, hot barn. I mean, ran a great race in the Fort Lauderdale, drew into that field. You notice Gaffalione got off of him. That to me is a bit of a question. He didn't do anything wrong in the last race. I mean, he ran a hell of a race from the 12 hole. I mean, to be up near the lead the whole time. It's just, I kind of just think that might have been his race. And I don't know if they were thinking that as a prep for this one. I think maybe that they wanted to draw him in. They just thought he was running well and that he'd give a big effort for this one. So I think you're going to get a good price. And Christophe Clement, West Point Thoroughbreds, I mean, 15-1, you get anything like that, he is definitely worth a play. But again, for ticket size for me, I'm going to toss. But I wouldn't dissuade you if you wanted to try to use. Ivar is, to me, the favorite by default. His resume, yes. I mean, he's definitely got some nice wins under his belt. But he's a closer, and he's a miler closer. He's been a turf miler. The majority of his career, he's only stretched out to a mile and 1/8 one time, and he finished 6th. So, I mean, it was against Colonel Liam, domestic spending, the Smooth Lake Straight. That's a nice field. But you'd like to think that he'd have a little more quality, that he'd be able to stretch out a little better. And the fact that he stays in a mile, I think they're basically saying that may be his ceiling. He's also a closer, and that's really not a good place to be for this race, given the biases that we've already alluded to. So at 5-2, he's too short for me. But again, I think you could use him for ticket size. I'm keeping it small in this race. I have to. You've got to pick one race to go short, and this is the one for me because I think we have more solid choices. So I'm tossing, but I could definitely see him as being used, and if he beats me, he beats me. Masterpiece is a bit of an enigma to me. He apparently was sold privately at 7 years old to Safi, and his connections, Mike Ivarone and those guys. You remember them from Big Brown. They're not high on my list as far as owners go, but be that as it may, Gaffalione stays on. Didn't really do too much running in the Breeders' Cup Turf. But this isn't quite as good a field, so his chances are improving a little bit. He's hot and cold. He's spotty. Sometimes he's solid. Sometimes he's not. So the fact that he was out west doing his best running, again, as I mentioned, that's not to me a feather in his cap. Those fields just aren't as good as he's going to find today. So he's a toss. I did consider using him, and you do have a little bit of value. I'm a little worried because it's Safi. He'll get bet down a little bit, but for me, ticket size wise, he's a toss. City Man is a hard knocker. He is a really nice horse. He fires every single time. And what more could you ask for than to have a horse who just wants to win and works towards it in every single race? He's by Christophe Clement, who's just, you can see, 38%, very hot barn. I would love to use this horse if he was not in the 12 hole. He is going to have to hustle to get up where he wants to be. I think that may take a little much out of him. I would not. I think he could definitely be used, and if it wasn't for ticket size, I would definitely have him on my tickets. 4-1, I think, is a square price, and I think he could very well win this, and I will be kicking myself if he beats me. But again, you have to cut somewhere for the ticket, and I'm doing so with him mainly because of the post. Other than that, I really like this horse. I can't use him in this hole. So we scratched the 13 and the 14. This is one where everybody has a pick 5 where they've got to cut, and they've got a single or they've got to use a couple. I don't think there's any single in this race, but I think because of the front end and Atone being really the only one who wants the lead, I think makes him a really good candidate at 12-1. And Lady Spikespeare, I just think, is running really, really well, and I think is the class of the field. So those two get the nod from me. Again, City Man is one that you could definitely use. You could definitely use Ivar. There's some definite options here, but I have to think of, I'm just thinking about ticket size, and I'll let you know what my strategy is later on if you haven't guessed already, but that's the way I see this race. Okay, we've reached the final leg of the pick 5. It is race 13. It is the Grade 1 Pegasus World Cup. It is 1 1/8 miles for 4-year-olds and up. The most important thing to note right away is take a look at the configuration. When you start from this race, you are basically right into a turn right away. So the horses on the outside are at a tremendous disadvantage right off the bat. So that's something that you have to keep in mind when you're looking at this race. The first horse is Proxy. He has seemingly finally found his form. He's running at his best. Won the Clark Handicap. It wasn't the greatest of fields, and it was a small field. And you've got a bigger one here. He is on the rail, and has the likelihood that he will be in a good position. Then the question will be, has he got enough to finish? I could definitely go one or two ways with him. He's not the most trustworthy, but you know what? He may have finally found his stride and get over the top. Michael Stidham is good with layoffs, and so I think that he's a good play. I will definitely be using. Not sure he's got enough to be a win candidate, but I think you're going to use him for sure. Simplification breaks my heart more often than not. I like this horse. I liked him as a 3-year-old, ever since that Holy Bull where he came rallying late and, followed it up with the Fountain of Youth. But he just never seems to get over the top. I don't know what it is. But sometimes he's far back like he was in the Derby. Sometimes he's up near the lead, but he never seems to finish. I think he's back on his home track. I think that's definitely favorable for him, and he can handle the distance. We're not worried about that. I don't know. I think maybe a Grade 3 is his limit. He's one that at a price you can think about using. He is in the 2 post, so he should be able to get to where he wants to. I'm just not sure he's got enough to finish. So for me, he's going to be a toss. But I do like this horse, but I can't be sentimental when I'm betting, so he's a toss. So it's riding with Biden. Butch Reed's a nice trainer. Leperoux's good with horses on the lead. I just don't think this one has enough to finish. There's other speed signed on in this race, and the Chris Kringle at Parks to me is not a great prep for a Grade 1 stakes race. This one's just outclassed, and I'm going to pass on this one. White Abarrio is kind of has the markings of a wise guy horse to me. Everybody focuses on 4-for-4 at Gulfstream. Yes, he loves running at Gulfstream, and is he a different horse there than he is other places? Perhaps. But let's remember a couple of things that are easy to overlook. The Florida Derby, he crawled home. And that soured me on the Kentucky Derby with him. I mean, the fractions were so slow that I said to myself, I just don't think this one wants any part of 1.25 miles, and he didn't. So Yeah, I mean, he won. Okay, he finished pretty well in the Ohio Derby, and that's a mile and an eighth. But look what he did in the Haskell. He was nowhere. And the Pennsylvania Derby, he couldn't finish. So the Cigar Mile, yes, okay, he did well, but that's a mile and it's a one-turn mile. So I'm not sure this is a two-turn horse, to be honest. And I think I don't know that he's progressed forward since his 3-year-old campaign. He hasn't even run 100 Beyer yet. So for me, he's a toss. And I also don't think you're going to get great value. I think he's going to be bet down. And so for those reasons, he's nowhere from me. He's gone. He's off my ticket. Defunded is it's a shipper, but it's a Bob Baffert shipper from California. You have to take him seriously. Those connections, Irad, Pegram, and Watson. I've had a lot of great horses in the past. Looking Lucky, Real Quiet, just to name a couple. This one is definitely going to be on the lead. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, he's hot or cold. I mean, he was terrible in the Pat O'Brien. He was terrible in the San Diego handicap. But he beat Country Grammar, who's as we know, is a pretty good horse. Just not sure what to make of this one all the way. The only thing that really works in his favor to me is his time form pace rating is the best. So I think he will definitely be on the lead, and he does have some grit to him, and I think he can. He perhaps might be able to fight off any challengers. But how Baffert is when he puts them on the lead, that they're pretty hard to beat. So he's a use for me. I think he's a win candidate, and at 6-1, that's a really nice price for a field that you'd have to say is for a grade 1 is okay. There's no world beaters per se in here, so I'm going to take. I'm putting Defunded on top. Art Collector is one that. He has all the, you look at him on paper and he looks great. I mean, he's Bill Mott trained. I mean, he's got a lot of wins, but where is he winning? He won at the Charlestown Classic a couple of times. He won the Aladar, restricted at Saratoga a couple of times. Has he really ever fired when he's been up against it? Yes, he won the Woodward. But look at the horses that he beat, Maxfield and Dr. Post. Those are two late runners. He pretty much had the lead all to himself. And that's what he wants, that he's a need-the-lead type. He's not going to get it here. I don't think he wants any part of a pace duel. And I think Defunded being on the inside has the edge and will likely get the lead. And I think if he does, then that's pretty much it for Art Collector. You notice Luis Saez didn't sign on for this one either. So he's a toss for me. I love Bill Mott. Bill Mott's a great trainer. But this one, even though it's his last race, and he's probably going to be, tightened up to the max, I don't like his chances here. I don't think it sets up well for him. So Art Collector's a toss. Skippy Longstocking is my choice to win this race. I think this is where Safi is going to get his major win. He, has done nothing wrong. And to me, the most important thing is, of the 3-year-olds, he seems to be progressing as a 4-year-old. He seems to be getting better as he's getting older. Witnessed by the Harlan's Holiday, which was a very solid win. He tracked, he took over when it was necessary, and that was it. I think he's demonstrated ability all the way through, and he's one of those 3-year-olds that he was pretty good, but he really starts to show what he's got when he's 4. He's got 2 wins at the distance and a third. He likes Gulfstream. He's raced over it several times. The funny thing is, I don't hear a lot of people talking about how this is his home track. They're all talking about White Barrio and Simplification. But I think this one is under the radar a little bit, and I think he's the best, running the best right now, and he's my choice to win. If I get 5-1, I will be overjoyed. So, to Skippy Longstocking, win candidate. Get Her Number, I think, ran his best race in the Cigar Mile, and it wasn't good enough, and it was also around one turn. I think that's what this horse wants. I don't think he wants any part of 2 turns, and he's compromised by being a little bit to the outside. He's going to want to be up near the lead. I just don't like him at all in this spot. And yes, Luis Saez stayed with him, but he's going to beat me. You'll get a nice price if you want to try to use him, but I really don't think this is what he wants to do, and so he's a toss for me. Last Samurai I thought about using for a couple of things. Number one, Wayne Lucas loves to be in these big races, and he also likes to break them wide open with an early move on a horse. And I started thinking, you know what, maybe that'll be the strategy here, is that he'll just move early and catch them all flat-footed. The problem is he doesn't have enough horse to do that, in my opinion. I think Defunded will be up near the lead and is not going to worry a whole lot about Last Samurai. He ran a good race in his last in the Tinsel, but you also notice he didn't win. He always seems to be a little short, and you know he won the Oakland Handicap, but he was up near the lead on that one. I don't think he wants to do that in this one. I think he's going to want to rate mid-pack, and in the 9 hole, it's going to be tough to get to where he wants to early on. 20-1 is a pretty good price, and as kind of a wild alternative to the chalk or to the more prominent candidates, yeah, maybe you give him a shot. But I'm going to toss him, and I just don't think he's got much of. I mean, there's a little glimmer that he might have a chance here, but it's not enough for me to put money down on him. So we come to Cyberknife. Cyberknife is the 5-2 favorite. Notice he's 5-2 and not 2-1. That should tell you that there's a little bit of doubt. From the 10 hole, I think he's really up against it to get to where he wants to. He has quality. He has demonstrated that Dirt Mile in the Breeders' Cup was awesome. He didn't deserve to lose. He ran a hell of a race. He has run some really nice races. Is he head and shoulders above this group? I don't know. I mean, he's 2 for 3 at 1 1/8, and he's running Grade 1 company. But there's a lot of races that he didn't win. He did win the Haskell only because Teba's jockey didn't see him. But I'm not sure. I'm just not. It is his last race. I mean, that's definitely, more than likely he's going to be geared up for it. And he has shown improvement throughout his 3-year-old campaign, so which means usually that they're going to be even better at 4. Could he do it? Sure. But it's going to take a Herculean effort from the 10 hole. And I think just there's some tactical disadvantages I'm not sure he's going to be able to overcome. And at 5-2, I'm not going to take the chance. Could I see him being used? Sure. He's going to beat me at 5-2. He's probably going to get hammered lower than that. And so I like value elsewhere, and I think there's others I've alluded to in better position. So for me, he's Cyberknife is a toss, but I wouldn't argue with anybody who wanted to use him. But I just have my reasons. Stiletto Boy, what do you say? Another California shipper. He always, he hangs around. I mean, that's really the best thing you could say about him. He did run third in what was a pretty good PWC last year. But I can't get excited about this horse. He's doing most of his running out in California, and he's never a winner. He's always clunking up for a money finish. Could he get there at 30-1 for a minor share? Yeah, maybe. But he really, there's a lot of things working against him, and I don't even think Money Mike Smith as his jockey is going to help him. If you want him underneath at value, why not? But I can't see him as a realistic win candidate, so he's a toss for me. Now we come to the now horse. Everybody's talking about O'Connor. He's, and he's the Chilean import, and Super Corinto has already come over here and done pretty well. And that allowance race was pretty breathtaking. I mean, he pushed the button and he was gone. However, he didn't follow it up terribly well in the Harlan's Holiday. He did get 100 buyer, which is something. But he really, I don't know that there was really much of an excuse for him not doing better than he did. And he faced some pretty good company, who two of them are back in here. So he's kind of an X factor. The biggest thing is obviously he's in the 12 hole, and he's just really up against it to do any kind of running. He would have to have a monster effort. He has shown some potential to do so, but I just can't back him. I mean, especially since he's a wise guy horse all the way. He's going to get bet down, and do you really want a horse in your mix who's going to be at 5, 4-1, 9-2, who really doesn't have much of a chance based upon his location in the race? So he's a toss for me. So if we review, go back, we'll take a look, and I'll show you. I'm going again. I think there's some really good choices here that I think you can keep your selection small. I think it's, hope for the best with this pick 5 in particular. So I am going to use Skippy Longstocking as my primary, as my A choice win candidate. I think he's running the best. I think he's in tactical position, and I think he's moving forward, and I think he'll do so in this race. Defunded I'm going to use because he could very well get on the lead and be gone. It's very possible. I don't think. I think the pace challenges he has in this race really aren't going to give him much of a fight. I think he's going to get the lead, and from there, I think he can dictate. Proxy is sort of a wild card for me. I mean, I really don't like 9-2 with this one, but he is in good form. He seems to have gotten over the top, and sometimes when they finally get a win, that's when things start to happen for him. So the fact that he's in a good position on the rail, I don't, there's a lot of possibility here. So I'm going to throw him in as just what I consider to be a more reliable candidate than some of the others for reasons I've stated. So we're going to go short on this race, and hopefully we'll come out on top. Okay, so given the complexity of the sequence here and the fact that we don't have any real world beaters, we're going to go with a fairly short ticket. And this is the caveman variety. I strongly recommend you go on Ticket Maker with DRF and break it down so you can save yourself a little bit of money. Particularly this card, you can end up with $1,000 ticket very easily. There's just so many options, and in order to come out with the right sequence, you really need a little bit of luck. So you might as well just take your stand and hope for the best. So in the McKnight to start, we're gonna go with the 1-9-12, and then in the Hooper we're gonna go with the 6-7, 9, and 10. The Filly and Mare Turf, we're gonna go 3-6-7. In the Turf 3-6, and in the World Cup 5-7. So that's 3 by 4 by 3 by 2 by 2. So that's 36, 72, 144 divided by 2. That's $72 caveman ticket. If you use Formulator in the Ticket Maker, you can get it down to $42. So that's the way I think is the best way to go. So I'm going to wish you all the best of luck, and we really need our fingers crossed on this one, and hopefully we'll all come out right at the wire. So good luck. Thanks.